Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Rabbit and Red Reviews. I'm Eric. Today I'm going to be checking out Fire and Cane, the latest experimental series release from the Glenfiddich distillery in Speyside region of Scotland. So a little bit about this malt. Like as I mentioned, this is the fourth release in their experimental series. Glenfiddich has been doing a couple different unique approaches to single malt. Starting with their West India Pale Ale Cask release, which was the first in their experimental series. They then went on to the Project XX and finally the Winter Storm, and now the Fire and Cane. So Glenfiddich probably doesn't need much introduction. Anytime you walk into pretty much any bar in the world, Glenfiddich is something you're going to see on the shelf. It's probably one of the biggest distilleries, if not the biggest and most well-known single malt, at least, that you can find. They are a Speyside malt, which Speyside whiskeys broadly fall into two categories. One is kind of a very light, palatable, kind of grassy, slightly fruity malt, or a very sherried malt. Speyside is the region with, I think, the most distilleries in Scotland, and is really the expression of single malt that most folks gravitate to who maybe are just trying Scotch for the first time. So this Fire and Cane, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on what they did with this part of this expression of their experimental series. I'll give you a nose, palate, finish review, share some final thoughts, talk a little bit about the value, and give this a score on my scale of 1 to 5. Which you can, of course, find in the description section of this YouTube video. So the Fire and Cane is actually, first and foremost, bottled at 43% ABV, so slightly over the 40% minimum, which is great. There is nothing on here talking about natural color or about it being unfiltered or unchill filtered, so we have to assume that they've added some color to this and that it is chill filtered. So a bit of description about the Fire and Cane. Here on the bottle it says, this is the whiskey experiment that will divide you. Smoky Glenfiddich finished in sweet rum casks. Will you get more campfire smokiness or toffee sweetness? So sort of interesting. They went with a peated Scotch, and Glenfiddich, of course, being a Speyside malt, definitely not something that you'd expect to be peated, so it should be rather interesting to talk a bit about what they were able to do by adding peat to this. It doesn't say specifically what type of rum casks they are or anything like that, but I think basically what we're looking at here is that it's been given a finish in some type of rum cask, and of course has been peated, so we expect a little smoke on this. There is a tag on here. It does share a little bit more information, kind of talking about what the nose, taste, and finish will be like on the smoky side as well as on the sweet rum side. I'll leave that to my own palate, but they do provide some tasting notes. It is in the traditional Glenfiddich bottle, which is this kind of triangular shaped bottle, which is kind of characteristic of all Glenfiddich. So let's get into this one. So to kick things off, as I mentioned, it's very likely, almost assured, that they've put some coloring in this, but you can take a look at the color anyways. That's what we're looking at. So on the nose, immediately getting a peat smoke. And for those that are into peated malts, we all know that the type of peat actually, has a very big influence on the actual smell you get on the nose. So, for this, I'm getting more of what I would characterize as kind of a Highland Park peat, which is more of a sweet heathered peat, but it does have a little bit of depth to it. It's actually quite nice. Also, getting some of that classic Glenfiddich kind of green apple. It's a bit buried beneath the smoke, of course, but definitely picking up a little bit of that as well. And some kind of, dark sugar sweetness, close to brown sugar, but not quite, more molassesy, but very sweet. So As they kind of present this, you're going to get, which one are you going to pick up? I'm picking up a little bit of both right now. But other than that, not a whole lot more I'm getting off the nose here. Let's give it a taste. Sláinte. So right away on the palate, it's creamy. I'm getting a little bit of toffee, almost like a roasted marshmallow, which is actually quite a dominant flavor I'm getting on this. The peat and smoke is still there. It's holding pretty tight in the initial palate, even into the development. Smokiness is there, but it is giving way quite a bit to that sweetness and that apple, as I mentioned, I got on the nose, which is kind of a characteristic flavor that you get off most Glenfiddich, at least their standard brand, standard releases. Definitely picking up some of that as well. Viscosity is thin, thin to medium, both on the viscosity and the mouthfeel. Not a very complex whiskey, but pleasant. And it does seem like the smoke and sweetness balance out quite a bit, actually a little bit more than I expected. Going into the finish, though, it is quite a short finish. It fades away pretty quick. There's a little bit of a lingering hint of kind of a sweet molasses type flavor. That toasted marshmallow is there, and then kind of this caramel apple. And a little bit of lingering of the smoke. So, right through this, it's kind of on the nose. There's not many surprises with this one. What you get on the nose is kind of what I'm also getting on the palate and into the finish here. We will put a little bit of water, not too much, as it is at only 43% ABV, but we'll give that just a bit here and see if we get anything else out of this. Interesting. So right when you put that water on, the smoke almost really, really fades into the background. For me, it almost disappeared, but I can imagine some folks would still pick it up. The green apple, a little bit of floral standing up really prominently now with the additional water. And that sweetness, that kind of, it's like a whipped cream, slight vanilla creaminess still there. Give it a taste now. As I mentioned earlier, the palate is relatively thin. The water thins this out quite a bit. The smokiness is almost completely gone. Again, it's the apple. There's a little bit of a spice. I want to say maybe nutmeg. Very slight though. Floral, a little bit of that floral is still there. The green apple and that marshmallowy flavor is still there as well. Yeah, the finish, if it could get any shorter, it just did with the addition of water. So the water definitely is not doing much in the finish. I would almost, say right now that the addition of water on this one is actually not helping it out in any way. But so in terms of the price in the United States, you can find a bottle of this anywhere from about $45 to $60. In that 45 range, it's kind of a, I'll roll the dice, especially if you're into peated scotch or really just wanting to try something new or see what Glenfiddich can do with peat. 45 bucks is worth it. More than that, though, is a little bit pushing it. Okay, so final thoughts here. This is fairly enjoyable, and I like that Glenfiddich tried something new and thinking outside the box a little bit. So it's interesting, but not very complex. Although they try to present it like it will be, but it does lead me to think, based on kind of what I tasted, that not having an age statement on it, this being in an NAS, makes me think that a bit more time aging probably could have done this a lot of justice. It's not super. The flavors don't blend super well together. They're okay, but I think a little bit more age, this could have been something maybe even a little bit special. So, final score, it's a little bit tough. I really do, though, ultimately think that this is enjoyable, especially for folks who are into peat. It's cool that they tried this out and are doing something a little bit different. I think I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 stars, which in my rating scale is recommend trying or grabbing a bottle of it if you can find it at a good price. So that's all I got for you about the Glenfiddich Fire and Cane. Hope you all enjoyed this review, and we'll catch you next time here on Rabbit Red Reviews. Sláinte.